the deadline, I would like to remind our listeners that just a few days ago, the deadline established by President Trump himself has elapsed, has expired. And President Trump promised serious sanctions, including secondary sanctions against Russia and against those countries which provide Russia with a lifeline. So unfortunately, President Trump didn't deliver on his promise.
Let's start with our top story of the day, and that, of course, is Ukraine. And President Zelensky has warned that peace talks without involving Ukraine will not achieve anything. He's reacting to Donald Trump's announcement that he will meet Putin for a summit in Alaska next Friday. And currently, there are no plans for Ukraine to be involved in the summit. Now, Keir Starmer spoke with Zelensky this morning, with Downing Street saying that both leaders welcomed President Trump's desire to bring this barbaric war to an end. But the defence expert Michael Clark said that he's worried that Donald Trump is underestimating the Russian leader.
Probably the outcome of Friday will be yet another meeting after that. And so Putin, he will find ways of stringing Trump along in order to carry on fighting. That's what we all expect. You know, you have to say that American diplomacy in this respect is completely inept. It's totally amateur.
Meanwhile, David Lammy and the Vice President JD Vance are jointly hosting a meeting of national security advisers today to discuss the war. It's taking place in Chevening, the Foreign Secretary's official residence in Kent. That's where we saw that press conference yesterday where JD Vance and his family are currently staying. Well, let's now speak with Oleksandr Merezhko, who is a Ukrainian Member of Parliament and Chair of the Ukrainian Foreign Affairs Committee. Oleksandr, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, on Friday, President Trump said that both sides were close to a deal, adding there'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I was surprised, honestly, because I sort of believe that President Trump should be more consistent in his policy. And he promised that in case if the deadline, I would like to remind our listeners that just a few days ago, the deadline established by President Trump himself has elapsed, has expired. And President Trump promised serious sanctions, including secondary sanctions against Russia and against those countries which provide Russia with a lifeline. So unfortunately, President Trump didn't deliver on his promise, and he has rewarded Putin with this summit, thereby breaking political isolation of Russia. So it doesn't look right. And, I think now the whole picture looks like a rerun of Munich 1938.
And according to reports, Putin is apparently relaxing his initial demand to annex those 5 eastern Ukrainian provinces of Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk and Crimea. And now he is saying that he would be happy to settle for Donetsk in addition with Crimea and Luhansk. I mean, what's the view in Ukraine about that?
Well, first of all, it's very easy for Putin, if he is serious, to stop aggression, just to withdraw troops. But the thing is that Putin cannot back down. He has put himself into a corner by including territories of Ukraine, Crimea, plus 4 oblasts into Russian constitution. So he cannot backtrack on that. If he does, he might lose power within Russia. So Putin right now, he's trying to put forward absolutely unacceptable, ludicrous, absurd proposals, knowing that he's doing it deliberately because he knows for sure that they're unacceptable for Ukraine from the perspective of our constitution and international law. But he's doing it on purpose, and his purpose is to prevent Trump from imposing sanctions. Putin is trying to create illusion of negotiations in order to dodge sanctions from the United States.
And I mean, as you say, it does feel that President Trump is being played by President Putin. He's kept talking about this was going to be a hard deadline and sanctions were going to be applied, and that hasn't happened. Do you feel, from a Ukrainian point of view, that things have actually gone backwards and that President Putin is almost more in control because he's also appears to be sort of controlling Trump?
Well, at first glance, unfortunately, things look like Putin again played President Trump. But at the same time, I want to believe, maybe naively, that President Trump understands all these problems, all these dangers, and he might have some kind of more sophisticated strategy. But unfortunately, I don't see it yet on the surface.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't feel like there is a more sophisticated strategy lurking up the sleeve of Donald Trump right now. In fact, it feels like Donald Trump, along with everybody else, is running out of options in terms, he's threatened President Putin. He's tried to talk tough with President Putin, but it doesn't look like, he's actually got any more leverage with President Putin, does it?
Well, he has leverage. It's a point or issue of political will. The thing is that it's absolutely hopeless and naive to believe that you can persuade Putin to do something. We don't need negotiations, and it has been proved many, countless times. From our experience, enough to recall the so-called Minsk Accords. The only way to deal with Putin, if you want to get a result, is by imposing sanctions upon Russia, upon those countries which help Russia to circumvent sanctions, and also by providing all necessary weaponry for Ukraine. That's the only deal how you can make Putin to stop his aggression. There is no any other option. The rest is just illusion.
And right now, as we speak, our Foreign Secretary David Lammy is having a meeting with the Vice President JD Vance. They're hosting a meeting of national security advisors today to discuss the war. Do you have any hopes that maybe our Foreign Secretary could persuade Vice President Vance to toughen America's stance?
Well, very lucky that the UK remains our close friend and supporter, an ally. You understand perfectly well. You understand European security system, the dangers posed by Russia, that Russia's goal is not only to subjugate Ukraine, to destroy us, but also to establish hegemony over Europe. And luckily, our friends in the UK, including Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, they're trying to persuade Mr. Trump to take the right decision. But, a lot depends not only on the unity between European leaders, a lot also depends on President Trump himself, how susceptible he is to the arguments of reason.
And finally, how does it feel from a Ukrainian perspective that all of these people are having these discussions about Ukraine, about Ukrainian land, which has Ukrainian citizens on it, and Ukraine is not in the room?
Yeah, exactly. This reminds us. That's why we are comparing it with the Munich 1938, because it's absolutely wrong. Even, I think that any agreements which can be potentially reached by Trump and Putin, they're doomed to failure, because you cannot impose on Ukraine. You cannot make us to cede our territories, because it's about our people. We know what it's like to be under Russian occupation. We saw it in Bucha. We saw it in Irpin. We know what will happen to those people. We cannot sacrifice our citizens, no matter what Trump and Putin are doing.
Well, look, Oleksandr, always very good to catch up with you and speak with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
That's Oleksandr Merezhko, who is a Ukrainian MP and Chair of the Ukrainian Foreign Affairs Committee.